The woman at the gate. The cold wind howled outside Jake's small cabin. He lived alone at the edge of the human colony on planet Varelia 7. His home was surrounded by thick alien forests and glowing blue grass. Most people didn't come this far out. Jake liked it that way. Peaceful. Quiet. Safe. But that night, the peace broke. A soft knock came at the front gate. It was strange. No one ever came here. Jake paused, his hand on his toolkit. Another knock followed, this time weaker, like someone barely had the strength to tap. He opened the window and looked outside. His eyes narrowed. There was someone at the gate, kneeling. It was a woman, thin, shivering, covered in mud. Her skin was light, purple, and her hair hung down like wet silver threads. She was not human. She was an alien, tall with long fingers and big eyes that looked up at him in pain. Jake rushed out and opened the gate. "Who are you?" he asked, confused. The alien woman tried to stand but collapsed into the mud. Her clothes were torn, hardly enough to cover her. Her arms were bruised and a cut bled slowly from her cheek. She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, marry me," she said. Jake blinked, stunned. "What?" "I need protection," she said, trembling. "Please just say, I'm your wife." Jake didn't know what to say. She looked desperate, like she had run for days without rest. He helped her stand and brought her inside. She was freezing cold. He wrapped her in a blanket and made some hot broth. The alien woman sipped it slowly. Her hands shook, but her eyes never left his. "I'm Jake," he finally said. "And you?" She hesitated, then in a soft voice she said, "Lyra." "Where did you come from?" he asked. Lyra looked down at the floor. "I escaped. From the city. I was taken there, bought, sold, treated like nothing." Jake frowned. "You were a slave?" She nodded. Jake had heard rumors, alien auctions still happening in secret despite the galactic laws. But this was the first time he had seen it with his own eyes. Lyra whispered, "They said only marriage to a human makes me free. If you say I'm your wife, I'll be safe. I will not bother you. I just want to live." Jake didn't answer right away. He watched her face. She looked broken. Not just tired, but crushed inside. Not just scared, but without hope. He looked at the strange mark on her back, glowing slightly under her skin. It was a brand, a slave's mark. Jake stood up. He walked to the window and stared into the night. The forest was quiet, but he felt something, like they were being watched. He turned back to Lyra. She had curled into a corner, trying to stay small, trying not to be a burden. She looked up at him with big, sad eyes. "I'm not lying," she said. "If they find me, they'll kill me, or worse. Please." Jake took a deep breath. He wasn't a hero. He was just a mechanic who liked quiet. But something about this woman made his chest feel tight, not in fear, but in anger. Anger that someone could be treated like this. "You can stay here tonight," he said. "We'll figure it out tomorrow." A tear rolled down Lyra's cheek. She nodded, saying nothing. Jake watched her fall asleep, on the couch wrapped in his blanket. Her face looked peaceful for the first time. He sat near the window holding his old rifle just in case. Suddenly his communicator beeped. He looked at the message. "Alert. Fugitive spotted. Near Sector 12, female, purple skin, slave mark. Caution, may be armed or dangerous." Jake's eyes widened. The photo attached matched Lyra exactly. He looked at her again, sleeping quietly, a small smile on her face. Was she dangerous? Or was someone trying to hide a terrible secret? Outside, the wind blew harder, and Jake realized something. This night was just the beginning. Branded by fear, Jake didn't sleep that night. He sat near the window with his rifle, eyes fixed, on the dark forest outside. The warning on his communicator kept flashing in his mind. The photo of Lyra, the word fugitive in red. But she was no monster. She looked like someone who had suffered more than he could imagine. As the first morning light touched the alien sky, Lyra stirred on the couch. Her eyes opened slowly, but the moment she saw Jake with the gun, she flinched and shrank into the corner like a scared animal. Jake lowered the weapon quickly. "It's not for you," he said gently. "Just making sure nothing dangerous comes." Lyra relaxed a little but stayed curled up. He made her a hot drink and sat across from her at the table. The silence stretched long, filled with questions. "Lyra," Jake said finally, "that alert last night, your photo was on it." Her hands tightened around the cup. She didn't answer. "Tell me the truth," Jake said. "Why are they really hunting you?" Lyra looked into his eyes. "Because I belong to someone rich, someone powerful." He branded me like an object. He bought me like meat. Jake said nothing. He let her speak. "I tried to escape before. They caught me, locked me in a dark room for 12 days. No food, just water and pain. Then I escaped again. This time I ran far, until I couldn't run anymore." Jake noticed something then, a small device behind her ear, half hidden under her silver hair. "What's that?" he asked. Lyra's face turned pale. "No." Jake walked over carefully and touched the spot. The skin there was warm and swollen. "It's a tracker," he said. "They're following you." "No, no, no." Lyra stood up, panicking. "They'll come. They'll find us." Jake held her shoulders. "Calm down, I'll take it out." "You can't. It's connected to my nerve. If you cut wrong, I might. Then we'll do it right. We have to." Lyra collapsed back onto the couch. Tears filled her eyes. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered. "You don't even know me." Jake gave a tired smile. "Because no one deserves to be hunted like an animal." She stared at him, her mouth slightly open. Jake grabbed his toolkit. "I'll need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Lyra nodded slowly. He pulled out a small scanner and checked the tracker. It was alien tech, deep under the skin, tied into a thin nerve strand. Carefully, he numbed the area and used a microblade to cut through. Sweat rolled down his forehead as he worked. Lyra trembled, biting a cloth to stop from screaming. Then, click. Jake pulled out the tiny glowing chip. He threw it into a metal box and shut the lid. "They'll get nothing from this now," he said. But just as he turned to Lyra, his communicator beeped again. "Motion detected, perimeter breach, 300 meters. Jake's blood turned cold. They're already here." He turned to Lyra. "Can you walk?" She nodded weakly. "Then we leave. Now." Jake grabbed supplies, loaded his rifle, and opened the underground hatch beneath the floor. It led to an old maintenance tunnel from the war days. He had never used it. Now it might be their only chance. Before they climbed down, Lyra stopped him. "If we get caught," she said, "they'll kill you just for helping me." Jake looked back at her. "Then let's not get caught." He pulled her into the tunnel and slammed the hatch shut behind them. Above, outside the cabin, a strange black drone hovered. Its red eye blinked and then flew away. The secrets underneath. The tunnel beneath Jake's cabin was dark and full of dust. It hadn't been used in years. Old metal beams groaned above them, and pipes dripped cold water from unseen places. Jake led the way with a dim lantern while Lyra followed, her steps weak but determined. Each sound echoed loudly. Every drop of water, every crack of metal. It felt like footsteps chasing them. They walked for what felt like hours. "Where does this go?" Lyra asked softly. "There's an abandoned comm station," Jake replied. "It's hidden under the cliffs. From there we can send a signal or get a ride out, if we're lucky." Lyra stopped walking. "If we're not lucky?" she asked. Jake didn't answer. He just kept walking. As they reached the end of the tunnel, a heavy steel door blocked their way. Jake used a code he remembered from his time as an engineer during the colony wars. The keypad blinked green, and the door creaked open. Dust rushed, out like a ghost. Inside, the room was dark but dry and safe. Old power cables hung from the ceiling. Broken monitors lined the walls. A few still flickered with faint lights. Jake walked straight to the main console and started tapping commands. Meanwhile, Lyra sat down on the floor and looked around the room. She froze. On the wall, half covered in dust, was a familiar symbol. It was the same one burned into her back. Jake noticed her staring. "What is it?" he asked. Lyra touched the mark on the wall. "This is the symbol of the noble houses," she whispered. "This place. It belonged to them." Jake looked confused. "But this was human tech." "No," Lyra said. "It was stolen. The nobles were building secret trade points underground, right under the human colony. That's how they moved people. Slaves like me, without anyone knowing." Jake stepped back in shock. "You're saying this place was part of the slave route?" Lyra nodded. "They were working with someone on the inside, maybe more than one." Jake stared at the console in front of him. If what she said was true, this wasn't just about Lyra anymore. It was bigger. Much bigger. Suddenly a screen turned on. "Welcome back, User 9. Jake blinked. He wasn't User 9. The console had automatically logged in. He searched the files and found hidden records. Names, times, locations, even prices. It was proof. Proof of the illegal slave routes between the alien noble houses and corrupt human officials. He looked at Lyra. "If we get this to the right people, this could destroy their whole network." Lyra stood, her eyes wide. "That's why they want me dead, not just because I ran, but because I saw things I wasn't supposed to." Jake copied the data onto a secure drive. But just as he finished, a loud sound echoed through the tunnel. Clang. Lyra grabbed his arm. "They're coming." Jake grabbed the drive, his weapon, and led Lyra to a hidden door at the back of the station. "This way. There's a service shaft. Leads to the surface." They moved quickly, climbing metal rungs up toward the light. But before they could reach the top, a voice rang out below. "Return the girl, human. You don't understand what you've done." Jake looked down. A tall figure in black armor stood in the station, looking up at them. His voice was calm but full of threat. Lyra whispered, "That's him. That's Lord Kryl." Jake held her close. "We're almost out." The final hatch was just above them. Jake kicked it open. Sunlight poured in. They crawled out into the cold morning air. Behind them, Kryl's voice echoed again. "You think you've saved her? You've just started a war." Jake didn't look back. He just ran, with Lyra by his side. The marriage that shook the stars. Jake and Lyra ran until their legs burned. The forest around the cliffs was quiet now, but not safe. The sky was changing color. Red clouds swirled above. Something big was coming, and Jake knew it wasn't just a storm. They stopped near an old shelter station built by settlers long ago. It had no roof, no power, but it was hidden. Lyra dropped to her knees, breathing fast. "They won't stop," she whispered. "Lord Kryl, he's a monster. If he finds us again, he'll kill you first." Slowly, Jake crouched beside her. "Then we'll stop him first." Lyra looked at him, confused. "How?" Jake pulled the data drive from his jacket. "We don't run anymore. We expose them." "But no one will believe us," she said. "They'll say I'm just a slave. Not if you're my wife," Jake said calmly. Lyra's eyes widened. "You were right, remember? A marriage to a human gives you full rights under Earth law, protection, witness power, everything." Her voice shook. "You want to marry me, for real?" Jake nodded. "If that's what it takes to make them listen, then yes." For a long time, Lyra said nothing. Then she smiled, just a little. It was the first true smile he had seen from her. Hours later, they arrived at Outpost 9, a small human station with a communication tower. Jake knew one person there, Officer Belen, an honest man. Jake rushed to him. "We need to register a union immediately, Emergency marriage protocol. Belen raised a brow. What? Who's this woman? Lyra stepped forward. My name is Lyra. I'm a former slave. I escaped the noble houses. Belen's eyes narrowed. You know this is serious, right? Jake handed him the data drive. Check this first. Belen scanned the files. His hands froze as he read the records, his eyes filled with horror. This is a trafficking list. Human names are on. This too. Important ones. Jake nodded. And she's the living proof. They held the marriage on that very outpost, under a half-broken light, with 2 security bots as witnesses. It was fast, simple, but legal. Jake and Lyra stood side by side. I, Jake Harrow, take this woman as my wife, he said. I, Lyra of House Selen, take this man as my husband, she said. As the final words were spoken, the station confirmed the marriage. Lyra now had full human citizen rights. But the moment the confirmation went live, the station lights flickered, the power cut, the room went dark. Officer Belen pulled his gun. They found us. An explosion shook the walls. Through the shattered window, Jake saw a ship landing outside. Sleek. Black. Alien. Lord Kryl had come. Jake grabbed Lyra and pulled her into the back room. They can't hurt you now, he whispered. You're protected by law. But will they care? She asked. He looked into her eyes. They will if I make them. He stepped out alone. Kryl waited just outside the wrecked door, soldiers around him. His face was calm, but full of fury. You think a silly human ritual will protect her? Kryl hissed. She belongs to me. No, Jake said. She's my wife, and a citizen now. If you hurt her, it's a war crime. Against Earth law. Kryl laughed. But just then, Officer Belen activated the emergency broadcast. The entire room lit up with a red glow. Live transmission, Terran command now observing. A voice echoed through the system. Stand down, Lord Kryl. The Union recognizes this marriage. Any harm to the woman will be considered an attack on Earth. Kryl's face darkened. He turned to Jake slowly. You think you've won? Jake didn't answer, but Lyra stepped beside him and spoke clearly. No. We're just getting started. A price on his head, a fire in her heart. 2 days had passed since the broadcast. Jake and Lyra were now in hiding deep within the borderlands, between human colonies and alien zones. The marriage had protected Lyra, for now, but it had also made Jake a target. There was a bounty on his head, 10,000 credits, dead or alive. Posters spread across outposts, back channels, and black markets. Jake Harrow, traitor to Galactic Order, wanted for harboring a known criminal. But Lyra was no longer hiding behind Jake. She was standing beside him. They camped in a canyon where old mining equipment still sat rusting under the twin suns. Jake was working on a broken drone, trying to convert it into a scout. Lyra walked back from a nearby stream with fresh water. Her movements were sharper now, her shoulders stronger. But Jake noticed something different in her eyes. She was no longer just afraid, she was angry. They put a price on your life, Lyra said, sitting next to him. Jake chuckled, wiping sweat from his brow. Means I must be doing something right. Lyra didn't smile. She looked up at the canyon walls. There's a way to end this, she said. For good. Jake stopped working. You have a plan? Lyra nodded slowly. I wasn't just a slave. Before I was taken, I was a daughter of the House Selen, a ruling family. Kryl didn't just buy me. He stole me. If I can get to the right people, show them the data and speak with my family name, I might trigger an investigation. Jake leaned back, surprised. You're royalty? I was, she said. Until they erased me. That night, they received a coded signal. Officer, Belen had risked his life to send them coordinates, a secret gathering of neutral leaders in the jungle city of Uvari. If they got there, Lyra could testify and deliver the data, but getting there meant crossing Sector 8, a lawless stretch crawling with bounty hunters, mercenaries, and exiles. Jake looked at the map. It's suicide. Lyra pointed at a narrow ravine. Not if we go through here. My people used this path long ago to escape war. Jake met her eyes. You're serious. I won't let them hunt you for helping me, she said firmly. I won't hide behind you anymore. They began the journey at dawn. Their path was narrow, the cliffs high, and the air full of strange glowing insects. Jake led with his rifle ready, but it was Lyra who seemed to know every step. She moved like she belonged to the land, silent and steady. They made it halfway through the ravine when a laser bolt flashed past Jake's ear. He dropped to the ground, pulling Lyra down with him. Voices echoed above. Bounty hunters. 10,000 if we bring him in warm, one of them shouted. Jake cursed. They found us. They scrambled for cover behind a large stone. Jake returned fire, hitting one hunter in the leg. Lyra spotted an old mining cannon, half buried in the ground. She crawled toward it, eyes locked on the control pad. Jake saw her and shouted, "What are you doing?" Changing the story, she said. She activated the cannon. The ancient weapon hummed, powered by backup fusion. Lyra aimed it upward and fired. The canyon shook. The bounty hunters scattered as rocks fell and the path behind them collapsed. Smoke and dust filled the air. When it cleared, the hunters were gone, and the way forward was open. Jake stared at her. You just saved my life. Lyra smiled. Now we're even. As they walked forward, hand in hand, Jake realized something. She wasn't the same alien woman who had begged for marriage at his gate. She was a survivor, a warrior, and maybe something more. The jungle city and the ghosts of her name. The jungle. City of Uvari was unlike anything Jake had seen before. It rose from the green canopy like a forgotten temple, half swallowed by vines and mist. Trees glowed blue in the dark. The air smelled of wet earth, sweet fruits, and danger. Birds with crystal feathers screeched from high above. Jake and Lyra stood at the edge of the city, dirty, tired, and hunted. But this was it. The last place they could go. The place where everything might change or fall apart. Lyra looked at the massive, root-covered gates and whispered, I haven't been here since I was a child. Jake looked at her. Do they know who you are? Lyra nodded. If they still remember. Inside the city, all was quiet but tense. The jungle had taken over much of the ancient alien stone. Still, the old council chamber stood, guarded by warrior monks in golden armor. These monks did not answer to the nobles or the bounty hunters. They answered only to truth. Jake and Lyra showed them the marriage certificate, the data drive, and the symbol of House Salon burned into her back. The guards looked at each other, then allowed them to pass. But one monk whispered to another, If she speaks a lie in this place, the walls will know. The council hall was dim, lit by torches and glowing plants. Strange alien statues lined the walls, some with faces like Lyra's, others long forgotten. 12 robed beings sat around a great circle. One of them stood as Lyra entered. State your name, the voice said. Lyra stepped forward. My name is Lyra Salon, daughter of Elyon Salon, former heir to the Salon throne world. I was taken and branded a slave. I escaped, and now I come to speak truth. A murmur ran through the chamber. You were declared dead, the same voice said. 15 years ago. Jake watched as Lyra stood tall. Then your records are as false as your peace. They showed the data drive. The room fell into stunned silence as names scrolled across the screen. Dozens of nobles. Several human officials. Deals, transfers, payments, proof of a hidden slave network, but not everyone was happy. From behind the circle, a new voice entered. Cold. Familiar. Lord Cryal. He stepped into the hall with slow, steady steps. Somehow, he had arrived first. She lies, Cryal said. That data is stolen. Her identity. A trick. She seduced this human, faked the union, and now wants to bring chaos. Jake stepped forward. We didn't fake anything. She's my wife. We followed the law. But Kryl smiled. Human laws mean nothing here. Suddenly one of the council members stood, but he wasn't just a counselor. He removed his hood, and Lyra gasped. Father. It was Elian Seelan. Older, tired, but alive. He stared at her for a long time. Is it really you? He asked. Lyra nodded, tears forming. They said I was dead. You never looked? I searched, he said. But we were told. Your body was found. Kryl interrupted. This is a waste of time. She is nothing now. She has no power. But Elian raised a hand. Be silent, Lord Kryl. If she is truly my daughter, let the hall test her. 2 monks brought forward a glowing crystal orb, the trial of names. It revealed truth. If she spoke her true name while touching it, it would shine. If she lied, it would shatter. Lyra looked at Jake, then stepped forward. Her hand trembled as she placed it on the orb. My name is Lyra Seelan, she said. Nothing happened. Then, the orb glowed, bright, pure, unmistakable. Gasps filled the room. Elian dropped to his knees. My daughter. Jake took a deep breath of relief, but Kryl snarled. This changes nothing. I still own her. Elian stood. You own nothing. She is of House Seelan, and this is war. The daughter, the warrior, the wife, and the war she ended. The council chamber shook as the words of Elian Seelan echoed through the ancient stones. You own nothing. She is of House Seelan, and this is war. Lyra stood tall beside her father. The glowing truth orb still pulsed in her hand. All eyes in the chamber, counselors, monks, guards, even Jake, were fixed on her, but not everyone accepted the truth. Lord Kryl didn't step back. He stepped forward. The truth doesn't matter, he said, his voice like ice. Because no one out there will hear it. I will leave this place. I will erase her again. And I will make the galaxy forget this day ever happened. He raised his hand, and a signal device blinked red. From above the jungle, the sound of engines filled the sky. Jake rushed to the window and looked out. Dropships, armed. Kryl grinned. You brought her here to die surrounded by memories and cowards. But something had changed in Lyra. She was no longer the girl who had begged for safety. She was no longer just a slave or a forgotten name. She was Seelan's blood, and her voice was fire. No, she said. I came to remind them what my name means. Elian turned to the council. Prepare the defenses. Uvari still has its shield core. The city will not fall. But we have no army, one counselor said. Jake stepped beside him. Then give me a comm link. I'll call one. Lyra raised an eyebrow. You have an army? Jake grinned. I know people who owe me. Outside the city, the dropships descended. Black armor-clad soldiers stepped out, armed with pulse rifles and riot shields, Kryal's private army. They surrounded the jungle city like a metal snake. But Uvari was not silent. The trees came alive. Monks of gold, forest guardians, and old tech from before the war began to stir. Hidden turrets unfolded from stone. Shields hummed with green, light. And in the council tower, Lyra and Jake stood side by side, ready. Jake clicked on the comm link. This is Jake Harrow, code 8X77. If you still remember what I did at Haven Ridge, I need a favor. There was a pause. Then a voice came through. You once pulled me from a burning ship, Jake. Tell me where to land. Jake smiled. Bring guns. The sky exploded. A streak of fire tore through the clouds as 3 human fighter ships dove toward Uvari. Behind them, drop pods fell like shooting stars. Jake's old war buddies had come. Mercenaries, ex-soldiers, rebels, fighters. They weren't perfect, but they were loyal. They landed fast and joined the defenders. For the first time, Lyra saw humans and aliens standing shoulder to shoulder. The city gates opened. The final battle began. Kryal marched through the smoke, shouting orders, fury in every step. He was unstoppable, until Lyra stepped in front of him. "No more," she said. He raised his blade, she drew hers. It was old, ceremonial, but her hands were steady. She moved with grace, trained, focused. They clashed in the courtyard of the city, surrounded by smoke and flame. Elsewhere, Jake fought to protect the shield corps. His rifle was nearly empty, but he didn't stop. Every step he took was for Lyra. Every shot fired was a promise. "You're not alone anymore." Lyra dodged Kryal's swing and slashed his leg. He roared. "You think you can beat me?" "No," she said. "But I don't need to." Behind her, the Council's guardian drone activated. A beam struck Kryal's back, sending him to the ground. She stood over him, panting. "You branded me, chased me, tried to erase me," she said. He laughed, even bleeding. "You're still nothing without me." Lyra stared down at him. "I'm something you'll never understand," she said. "Free." Then she turned her back and let the council take him. When the fighting stopped, the fires cooled, and the dead were counted, the city of Uvari stood. The galaxy watched the broadcast replay again and again. An alien woman once marked as a slave had returned as a leader. A human man had risked everything to give her a voice, and together they had exposed a crime so large, no one could ignore it. Weeks later, in the newly restored council hall, Lyra stood at a platform, but this time she wore no chains, no torn clothes. She wore white, royal, simple, proud. Jake stood beside her in formal human dress. His wounds had healed, but the way he held her hand said everything. She gave a short speech. "I begged for safety. I was given love. I was born of noble blood. But I became strong because I was broken. If my voice can break the chains of others, then I will speak until the stars burn out." The chamber gave a long, silent bow. That night, Jake and Lyra sat on a rooftop watching the stars. "Still think it was crazy to marry me?" she asked with a smile. Jake leaned back. "The moment you knocked on my gate?" "Yeah, total madness." She laughed softly. "But I'd do it again," he added. 100 times. She leaned against him, quiet for a moment, then said, "You didn't save me, Jake. You reminded me who I was." As dawn rose over the jungle, the story of the poor alien woman who once begged a human for marriage became a legend. Not because she begged, but because she rose. Because together, they burned the lie and built a truth no one could ignore.